now, ladies and gentlemen, we're really going to get started and actually do some programming. Now, for some people, this may seem pretty intimidating with all these buttons, but really there isn't a whole lot to it. I mean, all you need to do is just start up CodeBlocks and you should see a window like this. I encourage you to do that now if you haven't already. Now you click on File, New, and we're going to do Project, and we're going to select Empty Project. Actually, we're going to select Console Application since it's easiest to work with. We're going to click Next, C++, and we're going to use our directory here since we have dedicated it for projects. I'm going to call this YouTube CPP. For compilers, just select GNU GCC if you haven't already. I mean, you can probably select some of the other compilers on your system, but just go with GNU GCC since it's easiest. Okay, ladies and gents. Now, CodeBlocks will automatically generate us a, basically will generate us a Hello World application, which we can compile and run using this button here. Now, in some cases, I should also note that some antivirus software will bug you when you compile and run applications. Now, this is because, for example, Security Like Avast will think that this executable is a virus and want to check it to make sure that it's not using code that's actually going to harm your system. I would recommend that in some cases, if it annoys you a lot, just switch off the antivirus, since if you're compiling the applications on your own system, you know what's going to be actually compiled. So in this video, I'm just going to switch off my antivirus since I don't need it. As it says here, we've basically executed the Hello World. We've basically put out the Hello World, text, and that can be done using the cout library. That comes with the standard library. So I'll go ahead and explain this code in detail. Includes basically give you access to things that are called libraries. Now, these libraries are a collection, of functions. So let's say, for example, you wanted to say the word hello, like in real life. You would think to yourself, okay, I want to use my mouth to say hello. So I say mouth, and then I do out hello. Basically here, these libraries like IOStream and all of that, libraries that allow you to do all kinds of things. So if you want to shut down your computer, you need to include something like the Windows.h library, so on and so forth. IOStream is basically what we use in console applications to do things like cout, cin, and all of that. So that's really all there is to that particular library. Now, what we have here is a thing called namespace. This basically tells, the compiler that we are going to be using the standard library namespace. This basically means that you don't have to do this every time you use cout. So rather than doing that, you can just, save time and using namespace std. Very, very rarely would that ever cause a problem, and to the best of my experience, it never has. So use this particular line of text just to using namespace std, so that you can actually access the standard library without having to use the std there to access the class. Now onto the second part. This here is called int main. This is basically our function. Now, with C++, right, and with many languages, you need to have what's called a starting point. And in the case of this program, we have the starting point called main. And this starting point, or this function, has a integer return type, which is, an integer is basically just 1, 2, 3, 4, it's just a single number. And this returns 0. Now in Visual Studio, you don't have to worry about this. With the next line on our application, we have this thing called cout, which basically outputs text to our console as you saw before. See? So this allows us to, write things onto the console application. Now, cout is a function that's included under IOStream, so you will need IOStream to actually run it. Well, to actually access it, I should say, and I'll show what happens when I comment it out. build and run, and you get an error because cout isn't actually declared. You need the iostream header file to access cout. Now, cout, it's really pretty simple. You can just basically use this line of text, just do hello, I am Atom. You basically just write, you use cout as, you write cout, and you write this operator here, I believe it's a bit operator that streams data to cout. You enter the text, then you can perhaps maybe put a semicolon here, and you can probably get away with just writing it like that. Yep, I can. Now, you see here, this operator here, or this function here, is called endLine, which basically allows you to end the line of your program. So if you, well, I should say your text. So let's say, for example, you did a loop and you wanted to print this out a few hundred times, you would need to use something like endLine so that you actually had it right up in the form of a line. So I'll give you a quick example. We're going to do that, and we're going to try it again. So you'd want to use something like endLine so you don't accidentally bunch up text so that it looks ugly. So endLine, it's pretty helpful to do that. Now, that's really all there is to writing a very basic, hello world application in C++. It's not particularly useful for anything, but you got to walk before you can run. You've got to, you really got to start from the start and actually, get crawling, because you're not gonna, write a rotating block cipher in the first few days of, learning programming. You're not going to be able to do everything all in just one big hit. You have to learn the fundamentals, and that's basically what this tutorial series is for. So that's really all there is to, writing, an application, a basic application in C++. And there really isn't a whole lot more to it than that. And for homework, I suppose I can assign you guys a basic bit of homework to play around with cout and actually see what you can put into it. And, just generally to have some fun. I mean, if you don't really enjoy writing, doing programming, you should probably reconsider, actually going through with this tutorial series and any plans you have to enter an institution that teaches programming. Anyways, guys, that's all, and yeah, goodbye, and we'll move on to our next lesson in a few days' time.